In the emerald heart of Sleepy Forest, a pink unicorn named Fenella was born. From her first breath, she was a masterpiece of miniature architecture, soft pink fur, a silver shimmering tail, and a rainbow horn that spiraled like a delicate secret. But as the years turned, a biological friction emerged. While her peers grew into towering monuments of muscle and height, Fenella stayed small. She tried to fight her own nature. She practiced the protocol of growth, stretching her small limbs every morning and wishing upon the sharpest stars. But the world is not changed by wishes. It is understood through somatic acceptance. One day, the great unicorns Hilda, Flynn, and Aslan set off on a mission of structural repair to save a fallen tree. Fenella tried to follow, her small legs working with twice the kinetic impulse just to keep sight of their silver tails. But the distance grew too great. Standing alone in the deep forest, Fenella faced the void of displacement. She was too small for the big world, but in that silence, she discovered the architecture of mercy. Because she was low to the ground, she noticed the micro-rhythms that others missed. She saw Babs, a bumblebee, exhausted by the heavy weight of her own pollen. She found a hedgehog struggling with a neural chill, a cold. While the great unicorns were moving mountains, Fenella began the systematic work of healing the small. She realized that her size wasn't a defect. It was a sovereign calibration. Her rainbow horn, which was too small to heal a lion, was perfectly tuned to the frequency of a butterfly's wing. She became the guardian of the miniature, the one who noticed the snails, the mice, and the beetles, the tiny heartbeats that keep the forest alive. As the evening light began to stretch across the meadow, Fenella returned home. She wasn't tired from trying to be big. She was fulfilled by the echo of mercy she had left behind. Once upon a time, nestled deep within the whispering woods, where sunbeams danced through the leaves like golden threads, lived a tiny unicorn named Lily. Lily was no bigger than a buttercup, with a coat as white as freshly fallen snow and a horn that shimmered with all the colors of a rainbow. But despite her magical appearance, Lily was often quite sad. She would watch the other unicorns, the full-sized ones, galloping through the meadows, their powerful legs carrying them across streams in a single leap. Their majestic horns could touch the highest branches of the ancient oaks, and their laughter echoed through the valleys. Lily, however, could only trot through patches of clover. Her tiny horn could barely reach the top of a mushroom, and her voice was a little squeak, easily lost in the breeze. "Oh, why must I be so small?" she'd sigh to herself, hiding beneath a large fern. "I wish I could be big and strong like them. I want to run with the wind and touch the clouds." One sunny afternoon, a great festival was announced in the Whispering Woods, the annual Sunbeam Celebration, where all the creatures of the forest gathered to celebrate the longest day of the year. The highlight of the festival was the Starlight Race, a grand event where the unicorns would race to the top of Crystal Peak to catch the first ray of starlight. The winner would be crowned the forest guardian for the year. All the big unicorns began to train immediately. They practiced their leaps, strengthened their legs, and polished their horns until they gleamed. Lily watched them with a heavy heart. She knew she couldn't possibly compete. Her little legs would get tangled in the roots and undergrowth, and the steep paths of Crystal Peak were far too challenging for her. Feeling more left out than ever. She turned away from the bustling meadows and wandered into a quieter part of the forest she had never explored before. This part of the woods was called the Mossy Dell. Here, everything was miniature, host-like air. Tiny bluebells chimed in the breeze, and little streams no wider than a ribbon trickled between moss-covered stones. As Lily trotted along a path of soft green moss, she heard a faint, frantic chirping. Following the sound, she discovered a family of ladybugs huddled at the base of a towering dandelion. A gust of wind had just blown through, and one of the baby ladybugs had been swept off a leaf and was now stranded on a single strand of a spider's web, dangling precariously over a paddle. The mother ladybug was beside herself with worry. "Oh, please, someone help!" she cried. "My little Leo is going to fall." Lily looked at the delicate web strand. A big unicorn would have destroyed it just by getting close. But Lily was different. She was small and light. Carefully, she stepped forward. "Don't worry," she squeaked softly. "I can help." She gently nudged the dandelion stem with her nose, causing it to bend just enough. Then, with the utmost care, she reached out her tiny, shimmering horn and touched the strand of web Leo was clinging to. The web stuck to her horn, and with a gentle lift of her head, she raised the baby ladybug to safety, placing him right back onto the leaf with his family. The ladybugs buzzed with gratitude. "Thank you, little unicorn," they chirped. "You saved him. Your size was just right." Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the first time her small size had ever been a good thing. Feeling a little braver, she continued her journey through the mossy dell. A little further on, she came across a group of ants in a terrible panic. Their anthill, built inside a hollow log, had been blocked by a single large pebble that had rolled down and sealed their entrance. The ants were marching back and forth, unable to get inside with their precious cargo of food for the winter. "It's no use," one ant grumbled. "We can't move it. It's too heavy for us, and the entrance is too small for anyone bigger to help." Lily saw. There. Dilemma. The entrance to the anthill was just a tiny crack in the log. A full-sized unicorn's hoof would crush the whole thing. But Lily was small enough. She trotted up to the pebble. It looked like a giant boulder to her, but she knew she had to try. She planted her tiny hooves firmly on the ground, lowered her head, and pushed with all her might. It was hard work. She grunted and strained, her little muscles trembling. Slowly, ever so slowly, the pebble began to shift. She pushed, and finally, with one last great heave, the pebble rolled aside, revealing the entrance to the anthill. A cheer went up from the ants. "You did it. You saved our home," they exclaimed, marching past her and into their nest. Then the queen emerged and bowed deeply. "Your strength is not in your size, little one, but in your heart. You have done what no one else could." Lily's heart swelled with pride. She had been a hero twice in one day. She realized that being small wasn't a weakness. It was her own special kind of strength. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lily heard a faint, musical humming. It was coming from a patch of moon-petal flowers, which only bloomed at twilight and were said to have magical healing properties. But their nectar was hidden deep inside their tiny, bell-shaped blossoms, impossible for most creatures to reach. There, she found the pixie queen, her wings drooping sadly. "Oh dear," the queen sighed. "My daughter, the princess, is ill. Only the nectar from the moon petals can cure her. But the flowers are closing for the night, and we can't get the nectar out in time." Lily looked at the delicate flowers. Her horn, she realized, was the perfect size. It was slender and small enough to fit right inside the bell of the flower without damaging it. "I can help," Lily said, her voice now filled with confidence. She went from flower to flower, carefully dipping the tip of her rainbow horn into each one. A single drop of glistening, silvery nectar clung to her horn from each bloom. When she had collected a small, shimmering bead of it, she carefully presented it to the pixie queen. The queen's eyes widened in amazement. She collected the precious nectar in a tiny vial made of a dewdrop. "You are a true friend to the small folk of this forest," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You have a gift, little unicorn. Your size is your superpower." Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the direction of Crystal Peak. The starlight race was over. A large, strong unicorn had won, and was being crowned the forest guardian. For a moment, Lily felt a familiar pang of sadness, but it quickly faded. She looked at the grateful faces of the ladybugs, the ants, and the pixies. She hadn't won the race, but she had become a guardian in her own way. Guardian of the small. The next day, as the new forest guardian was parading through the meadows, a delegation from the mossy dell arrived. The mother ladybug, the ant queen, and the pixie queen all came forward. "We have an announcement to make," the pixie queen declared, her voice ringing with magic. "While you have chosen a guardian for the grand and the great, we have found a guardian for the small and the delicate. We name Lily, the miniature unicorn, our guardian of the mossy dell." All the tiny creatures of the forest cheered. The fireflies lit up in a dazzling display. The crickets chirped a joyful song, and the bluebells rang out in celebration. The big unicorns looked on in astonishment. They had been so focused on their own strength and size that they had never even noticed the tiny world at their feet. They watched as Lily, with her head held high, proudly accepted her new title. Her rainbow horn seemed to shimmer more brightly than ever before. From that day on, Lily never wished to be bigger again. She understood that everyone has a unique purpose. While the big unicorns protected the forest from large threats, she protected it from small ones. She helped lost beetles find their way, carried water to thirsty flowers on her horn, and used her light weight to test rickety bridges for the mice. She was Lily, the guardian of the mossy dell, and she had learned the most important lesson of all. It's not the size of your horn that matters, but the size of your heart. And Lily's heart was the biggest in the whole Whispering Woods. Thank you so much for watching this story with us today. If you enjoyed Lily's adventure, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more magical tales. We'll see you in the next video. Bye. In the deepest part of the night, the willow tree became a sovereign cathedral of silence. Fenella's breathing had slowed to a subsonic rhythm, a pace so deep and deliberate that it seemed to vibrate in harmony with the very stones of the earth. The neural restoration was no longer just a process. It was her entire state of being. As she lay in the hollow of the roots, she experienced the geometry of connection. In her mind's eye, she didn't see the vast forest as a daunting map, but as a series of interlocking microsystems. She felt the spider spinning its web a few feet away. Structural masterpiece of silver seal. She felt the roots of the willow drinking from the hidden streams beneath her, a hydraulic flow of pure life. Fenella realized that because she was small, she was the only one who could truly inhabit the gaps of the universe. She was the filler of voids. Where the large unicorn saw empty space, Fenella saw a world teeming with potential for residual kindness. Her rainbow horn gave one last, microscopic pulse of light, a signal of completion. This was the final seal on the Echo of Mercy protocol. The day's events, the butterfly's mended wing, the mouse's safe passage, the ants' dry tunnel were no longer separate memories. They merged into a single neural shield that protected her from the friction of the outside world. The atmospheric stasis of the meadow was now absolute. Not a single blade of grass moved. Even the air itself seemed to have reached its optimal density, thick with the scent of dew and the heavy, sweet perfume of sleeping clover. Fenella's consciousness drifted further, past the world of form and into the sovereign void. She was no longer a unicorn, nor a daughter, nor a guardian. She was simply a coordinate of peace in the vast architecture of the night. The biological debt of her day had been paid in full by her acts of mercy, and she was now entitled to the deepest, most restorative rest. High above, the stars, those ancient neural anchors, watched over the hollow. They didn't judge her for her size, for in the vastness of the cosmos, everything is small and everything is significant. Fenella was exactly where she was meant to be, in the profound stillness of the 0-point hour. Fenella's physical form seemed to dissolve into the very somatic fabric of the meadow. The boundaries between her soft pink fur and the mossy roots of the willow became indistinguishable, a state of biometric integration where the individual ceases to struggle and the environment begins to provide. She was now traveling through the internal landscape of the small. In this state of deep-phase sleep, she saw her life not as a series of minutes, but as a lullaby of scales. She saw that the universe is a fractal, that the same celestial geometry governing the galaxies is present in the delicate veins of a leaf and the fragile pulse of a dragonfly's heart. The echo of mercy was no longer a sound. It was a neural vibration. Every tiny soul she had stabilized during the day was now part of her guardian protocol. The butterfly she had mended now flapped its wings in the world of her subconscious, creating a gentle breeze that swept away the last neural dust of her insecurities. The mouse she had guided now stood as a sentry in the tunnels of her mind, ensuring no stray worry could penetrate her sovereign sanctuary. Fenella felt a sensation of weightless density. It is the paradox of true rest. Feeling as heavy as the earth, yet as light as the moonbeams dancing on the willow leaves. It are the anchor for the things the world ignores. The willow seemed to whisper through the low-frequency resonance of its branches, and because you are their anchor, the earth itself will hold you. Her small rainbow horn, now dim and cool, acted as a somatic grounding wire, siphoning off any residual predictive friction about the coming dawn. There was no tomorrow in this hollow. There was no big or small. There was only the eternal now, a systematic state of being where every cell in her body was performing a structural audit, repairing, restoring, and renewing. The neural leak was not just sealed. It was replaced by a fortress of grace. Outside, the forest had reached its most optimal stasis. The predators and the prey were united in a single slow-motion biological symphony. The friction of the day, the hunting, the hiding, the growing, had been deconstructed into a pure, silent energy that fueled the forest's recovery. And at the center of it all, in her perfect miniature hollow, Fenella was the heartbeat of the undergrowth. In the final, velvet hours of the night, Fenella reached the absolute resolution. Every tiny micro-rhythm she had balanced a butterfly's wing. The mouse's path, the ant's tunnel had woven together into a single, unbreakable neural shield. She was no longer a small creature in a large forest. She was the very soul of the stillness itself. The willow tree stood over her like a silent guardian of the sovereign void, its branches no longer moving, but holding the air in a state of atmospheric grace. The echo of mercy had completed its circle, returning to Fenella's heart and filling it with a density of peace that no neural leak could ever penetrate. She had moved past the need for magic or movement. She had arrived at the state of total somatic integration. In this hollow beneath the ancient roots, the big world and the small world finally became one. The friction of being enough had dissolved into the cool, damp moss. Fenella, guardian of the miniature, the architect of the small, let out one last microscopic breath that merged with the forest's own slow exhale. The protocol was finished. The restoration was absolute. Your presence here, in the quiet spaces between the noise, is what makes this systematic recovery possible. The willow is still. The horn is dim. The rest you have earned is your sovereign right. Sweet dreams. Good night. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your night. May you find deep peace and restful sleep. Wishing you the sweetest dreams. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.